And we have with us our next guest, Mr. Joe Musselman from the Honor Foundation. I was going to introduce you a little differently because you have this crazy lady sitting next to you as well.
She's the one that made it possible for Joe to be here today.
That's right. Well, you know what, Joe? You are doing great things. Tell us a little bit about the Honor Foundation.
Well, to know a lot about the Honor Foundation, the creation story itself tells a lot about it. So I was going through BUD/S to become a SEAL in 2009 and 2010. I sustained an injury. It took me out of training. I stayed around at the command doing a lot of admin work, and one day a Command Master Chief Navy SEAL came in, and admin is where you come and check out of the community if you're a SEAL. And he looked at me on the very last day and he said, 24 years in the SEAL teams, what am I going to do now? And that didn't make any sense to me because this man had a master's degree. He had been to 50-plus different countries. He spoke French, Farsi, and some Arabic. He has built cities and small towns with little help among 16 other nations. Some of the most talented men at the top 1% of our military, where training dollars, professional development, and overall performance standards are concerned. So that was the beginning of the Honor Foundation. I helped that individual write a resume, and that led to 88 more resumes in the next basically 90 days.
Wow.
I had, instead of accepting a payment of any kind, I had them reference me teammates who have transitioned out of the community in the last 5 years. So I had about 212 names. I interviewed all 212 in 7 states in 6 months, and that's what we base all of our curriculum off of, those interviews, asking them questions like what do they wish they had, what do they wish they had done differently. And so now what the Honor Foundation is, it's a complete transition institute for members of the Navy SEAL community and special operators across all branches.
Great.
What do you mean, how do you transition them into what exactly, and how do you help them? Give us some more specifics on that.
Sure. So with the research that I did in the private sector, just around the market itself, it was amazing to see the breadth of experience that these folks had and what industries they went into. So the first thing I had to do was create a program, and we call it a bridge. On the left side, we train our guys. On the right side, we bring employers, and they meet in the middle. It's a very simple model. And so what we do is, while they're active duty, not when they're out, we're trying to be as proactive as we can, not reactive, and getting them after they've already separated service. So we deal with folks that are 12 to 18 months still active duty. This gives them time to prepare and prepare a plan. And so when they come into the Honor Foundation, that's exactly what they do. The first thing they do is they get 3 career assessments. They work with career coaches. They work with strengths coaches. They do something called the U School. Then we work on the more generic things, resumes, LinkedIn, interview, how to networking. And then the last phase is about executive education. So on the West Coast, we've partnered with Stanford, with UCLA, and also with the Rady School of Management is where we're housed. And all of this, by the way, has been made possible. One of our biggest sponsors of all of this is the Navy SEAL Foundation. They've been with us from the very beginning to help this community get through this transition process. So that's basically what the third phase is all about, is executive education. We pull in leading faculty and top faculty and industry experts from all across the United States to come locally here to San Diego to work with these guys in the last phase, and we transition them directly into an executive coach. That executive coach is picked out, hand-selected from the private sector to work one-on-one with these guys until they get hired.
Wow.
So we are not a job placement firm. We are a teach a man to fish, not a give a man a fish program. So these guys are picking up tremendous amounts of skills. I would never say in a million years that anyone from this community needs help. What they do need is a compass. And so what the Honor Foundation has done is provide a tailored program that gives them a very detailed compass and a way forward for them, their spouses, and their support network to make sure that the transition is an absolute 100% success.
Right. I'm so glad you're on, because it helps piggyback onto the movie recently about Chris Kyle and the awareness that brought to the struggles that the active duty have in, while they're active duty, back and forth into their personal lives, and then trying to transition, from active duty back into civilian life. And, the movie brought awareness to the PTSD and those, emotional and other types of struggles, but not so much about from the professional level in terms of that transition back into civilian life. About the struggles as well as the help that's out there for these amazing highly skilled people that have so much more skill levels to offer the world and the professional community besides just what they do as a SEAL.
Yeah, and it's hard to think that, some of these people that are so highly skilled and highly experienced, they're also highly educated. And,
Correct.
And now, they're still struggling to find their way when they get outside the box that they've been working in for so many years. So.
Transition is so dramatic. I don't think the general public really understands the transition from the military back into civilian life.
Yeah.
It is a dramatic transition. You can't, like a light switch, turn it on and off.
Right.
You can't come back to society, and the longer you've been in the service, and especially the experiences of training you've had, the more of a challenge it is to come back into life. I mean, you're a different animal when you come back.
Yeah.
And I use that word animal. And, my speeches, I talk about transitioning back for those combat disabled vets. And it's the public, the general public, it's a lack of understanding. I think a fear by some employers.
It is.
And if anything, they should be open arms to these men and women coming back out of service. Because of all the skills and training that if the employer uses it correctly, will definitely enhance the company.
Yeah. I'd love to just jump in too and just mention one thing quickly. The Chris Kyle example and the lone survivors examples and a lot of those things, I mean, they're basically highlighting 1% of what these individuals do on a day-to-day, and they're exceptional and extraordinary circumstances that have taken place. The 99% of the other things they're doing, they're cross-function training, other nations to do amazing things with their special forces. They take place in executive education programs from Harvard and from MIT and from Oxford. This is a very rare community. They're building exoskeletons with MIT professors. And so what you talked about earlier, Urban, about the employers, veterans, first off, don't hold a monopoly on PTS. A lot of people can experience something traumatic, and I think that this community in particular, their selection process is designed to really pick to use your word, a different animal, and to someone that can really withhold and withstand pressure. So when I deal with employers, I really try to educate them, and that's the biggest piece of our part of the bridge on the employer side, is to educate employers on what these folks do day to day. They are communicating at very high levels. They're culturally intelligent. They have done things that most people don't understand, and that's why we exist, is to translate that to employers so that they can see where these individuals fit inside of their business.
Yeah, because a lot of people think of a SEAL and they think of these the skill set of a SEAL being, jumping out of airplanes, being, underwater and doing these extraordinary, military feats. They don't think about the other executive types of skills. Can you give us some specifics, like maybe 3 or 4 skills that a business leader isn't necessarily aware that a SEAL might have that might translate into their business? Sure,
of course. So, for instance, GM just hired one of our fellows directly out of the program, and they fast-tracked him into the executive pipeline of GM, and specifically to work with the leadership inside of GM and to try to understand process efficiencies and how to manage burnout at a very high rate. And most importantly, when I spoke with folks from GM and other companies like Palantir and even Citibank and folks at Goldman Sachs, these folks see that it's all about finding the best raw materials out there and getting them onto the team. And these folks are the best raw materials on the planet. So when you talk about specific skills, I mean, they are trained to do unbelievable types of project management, program management, leadership training, and outside of all of that, they understand budgets like I've never seen. They know how to manage any type of assets of a company in a very traditional and then again a non-traditional way. They have started businesses inside of the Navy, different types of support activity, intel operations. They're startup experts. They're all entrepreneurs, and if they're not entrepreneurs, they're intrapreneurs, where they want to go inside of businesses and really make a difference and innovate from the inside out. So you're really getting an incredible full package. And so the specific places where these guys typically belong and where they fall into, predominantly into corporate finance, into the tech and startup fields, into Silicon Valley, the oil and gas, and of course defense and security are a natural fit, but not always a natural fit for folks that really want to go out and do something different, which this community traditionally wants to do.
Well, Joe, we're running short on time for this, but I'm going to ask you to sit tight, and let's bring you into the next segment so we can finish up there.
Great. Thank you.
Great. Okay, we're back. I'm your host, Barry Waxler, here with Andrea Kay and Urban Miaris, minus surnames.
Yes.
And we've asked one of our favorites to sit in because she's the one responsible for bringing Joe in. So welcome Miss Eve Nasby from, should we say from Brave this time?
Sure, why not?
You got so many different companies. So,
right on.
So, and Eve, want to thank you for bringing Joe into our world today.
My pleasure.
It's been fun. So we just before break, we were talking about a couple things. Why don't you tell us where you wanted to go with Joe?
Yeah, so Joe Musselman from the Honor Foundation is here with us, and we're so excited to have you, Joe, so thank you for being here. One of the things we were talking about in the green room was your program kind of gives a compass, yes, to the team guys, but when you're a Navy SEAL for 20 years, you're kind of known within your family and friend circle as the Navy SEAL. You know, this is my Navy SEAL friend. Well, what happens to them when they transition out? Where is their identity, and how do you guys help them rebrand and retool themselves?
Well, that's a great point, and it was one of the things that I found initially in all of the interviews. And we use a program called the U School, and what the U School is, you rebuild and redefine yourself through a series of workshops of self-discovery, looking at who you've been, to figure out where you're going to go. And I heard the same thing over and over again through these interviews is, look, I've been a SEAL for 20 years, 15 years, 12 years, 25 years, 33 years. What am I now? And so we launched their new story as a capstone for the first month of the program, where they've been diving into their past, looking into their experiences to figure out where they're going to go next and who they really are now. And so it's a very important process. You can't know where you want to go in the world or what's going to make you happy in a career until you understand yourself. And this is a time for them to be self-reflective on themselves and not about the team. It's always been about the team. It's always been about the we, but transition, it's got to be about the me. These folks need to sit down and really understand themselves and their support network and their family and the needs of all of those people combined to understand where they want to go next. So that's just the first phase of our program, is that self-discovery process for these guys.
That's great. And, one of the things that impresses me is, the people that are behind you. So a couple things I want to talk about real quick. Number one, tell us who's behind the Honor Foundation, and let's dig into how you're funded, so we can help you with some of that too.
Of course, yeah. And so we have a tremendous staff at the Honor Foundation. Our executive director of programs, Christina Rivera, and we have an operations coordinator who does amazing work, Jessica Cates. Our board is a tremendous group of folks. Hal Kirkendall, formerly of Citibank, is a resident here in San Diego, and our biggest supporter right now is the Navy SEAL Foundation. They are located in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and they have supported us from day one. They've been a tremendous thought partner in all of this. And the Honor Foundation, of course, is a 501c3. And if you're looking to get involved, there's several ways, whether to volunteer, if you're a business professional and you're looking to become faculty at the Institute, you can email us at info@thehonorfoundation.org, or you can visit us at www.thehonorfoundation.org. Click Get Involved, and of course we do accept donations. We are partnering with several corporations, and we have several ways for you to get involved in the financial, the treasure, in addition to the time aspect. So please get involved.
Well, I love what you do, and I'm going to make you an offer right now. Okay. This is what I do, isn't it? So I would like to get involved with you to do some fundraisers for your operation.
That'd be fantastic.
Okay? We have some really, really very interesting, I'll just call it interesting, projects that we can do to help get other people involved and do that. So I'm definitely going to give you a call next week, and let's sit down and figure out how we can do all that.
That would be fantastic. And, the one thing the Honor Foundation has done for the last 2.5 years is work hard and keep our head down to make the mission happen. So to be able to get out now and do these types of shows and meet people like you to reach out and contribute to these men's success is very important to us. So thank you.
Great. Well, you know what? We have two absolute heroes in the room. I should say three, but I'll leave Eve off of this one for the moment.
Okay. Hello. Hi.
Hey.
What am I? A stick of wood?
What are you?
I'm just teasing.
That's okay. So we're talking about the veteran community.
Well, don't leave yourself out, because actually when Joe, before the break, when he was talking about all the skills that come out of the Navy community, what the skills that they have to bring to the professional community, I was thinking about you. and how you were able to transition from the Navy into being like a finance genius. It's what you do. So pat yourself on the back, mister.
Well, thank you. But if I told you the real story about what motivated me, it had nothing to do with the military. So
what was her name?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. It was. It started around a long stick of wood that was swung over my head a few times and said, okay, I'm going to do my own thing now. So, but that's a whole different story and something I can't share on air anyway.
No, save that for a talk on Philly, for when we do a whole show about your Philly days.
Yeah.
But it's really wonderful to see, Joe, organizations like this helping the transition. It wasn't there 48 years ago when I got out.
Yep.
Yeah.
They
mailed us our discharge.
Just think back to, and this is something that Urban was involved in, and Joe, just from age, you missed this part of the world. But you think back to coming out of Vietnam and transitioning out of Vietnam. At least today, we have the attitude that our military, our SEALs, our special forces, everybody coming out, the veterans are our heroes today. Okay, back, and this was before my time. I went in a poor time to go in, but I did. Urban came out of the military, where people, not only looked down at veterans. They wanted to step on veterans. The Vietnam vets was a bad thing back in the day. So, my hat's off to everybody that's done it. I'm glad we are where we are today. So
I'm glad the country is where it is today.
Yeah.
Regarding vets? Yeah.
Can I make one more point too? Yeah. It's very important about this specific call to action. A part of the research that we did, I looked deeply into other brands that are elite, just as special operators are. And the Wharton School at UPenn graduated around 800 people. In 2014, about 600 of them were looking for full-time jobs. 98.2% of them had job offers on the table 3 to 6 months out from their graduation. Now, the 212 SEALs that I interviewed throughout the nation, 160 of them were looking for full-time employment throughout their transition. Less than 13% of them had job offers on the table 3 to 6 months out from their separation. One elite brand, another elite brand, but there's a very serious problem here. So this is why we exist, to do this work.
Great. Well, we're all in it together, so let's find some added solutions.
Absolutely.
So, great. You're listening to Close Up on San Diego Business here on KCBQ, streaming live at AM1170theanswer.com. Give us a tweet at CloseUpSD. Email me at Barry@CloseUpSanDiego.com or find our page on Facebook. We want to hear from you.